This is Students on Sport.
Hello everyone and welcome to the very first Student on Sport podcast. I am Jack Clark-Scott and I'm joined with our chief editor today, Kieran Smith. Hello Kieran.
Hello Jack, how are we?
I'm good, thank you mate. And we're also joined with our writer and social media editor, Albert Pearson. How are you doing, Albert?
I'm good, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you mate. We've got a few topics to talk about today. Obviously we're all Premier League fans. So we're going to start talking about the Premier League straight away. Leicester this season, we're going to start with them. And Brendan Rodgers, what a job he's doing for them this year.
Oh, I think it's remarkable, to be fair. I thought, given the recent years, Leicester have always been up there in recent times since they won the league. Obviously, they had that season after, which is a bit catastrophic. Since Rodgers has come in, they've looked a transformed side again. Some of the signings they've made, I think, have been up there with some of the best signings in the league in the past few years. I think I'm a big fan of Yuri Tielemans. I think he's a brilliant player. That new lad they've got, that Sengazunder, he's a fantastic winger.
Yeah.
And then obviously they've got their old boys like Jamie Vardy, who's shown time and time again that he can do it in the Premier League. Signed from a non-league club, it's pretty incredible, really.
Yeah. Albert, what do you think?
Yeah, I just think Leicester are a really well-run club, to be honest. It just shows what happens when you get a good manager and you stick with him for a bit. Brendan Rodgers has done a class job. Because obviously they won the league, no one expected that. They sort of went a little bit downhill from there, but then they brought Rodgers in, and he's turned them into a top six side, definitely. They only just missed out on the top four last season, but they look strong as ever, and I think they'll get it this year.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I agree with you, to be fair. But it's like if players like Maddison recently said in that interview he's trying to get more goal contributions now, and he has been doing. And indeed, as well, he's been playing class. And they got rid of Ben Chilwell. I thought it'd be a massive loss. But that James Justin's brilliant, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's brilliant. I think the fact is about Leicester as well is in the transfer market they've been so clever. You know, they've obtained 80 million from yours truly. Harry Maguire, and they've brought in Sionku, who's arguably not, done the same job there. They've got some fantastic fullbacks. I'd probably say behind Liverpool, probably the best fullbacks in the league. Yeah. I really rate that Castagna they've just brought in. I think probably one of the best right backs in the league when he's fit, obviously, is that Ricardo Pereira. I think he's brilliant, and I think it's baffling to the fact that they've sold Chilwell, and they've been all right in them positions. It's not even seen that there's been any change.
Well, obviously,
incredible.
Chilwell's come to you, Albert, at Chelsea, and Leicester are third or fourth now, and Chelsea are ninth, so it's not gone too well for him. But I think Leicester this year are doing especially well. But I really like Maddison personally. I think, especially after that interview, I think a lot of people are kind of liking him a lot more. But we'll go to you for this one, Albert. If you had to choose, we'll give you a difficult question. I saw this on Twitter. I think it was between Maddison, Grealish, Foden, and Mason Mount. Obviously, being a Chelsea fan, you've got Mason Mount in there as well. If you had to choose two for England, who would you take?
Don't put Mount top. Don't you dare. Don't you dare.
Go rank 1 to 4. Rank 1 to 4.
1 to 4. Do you know what? I saw this on Twitter as well. I honestly, I'd like to take all four of them because I think they all deserve it. But if I had to pick, I do think Phil Foden first. I just think he's. Yeah, I just think Phil Foden is class. I think
that's a big shout. That is a big shout.
Yeah.
I think it's going off at the moment as well. Obviously, Grealish had a good start to the season. He's slowed down a bit now. Maddison's playing really well. But I don't know. Foden I think he gives something a little bit extra. I just really like the way that he plays. I don't think England have had a player like that for quite a while. No. Second, I'd probably go Jack Grealish. Again, he's got some extra, and I do think he was England's best player in like the last few games that we played a few months back. He was England's best player.
Yeah, it seems like that recently, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's honestly this year he's something else. Because I personally never rated Jack Grealish like a few years ago, and even last year I didn't think he was all that. But this year he's on a mad one. I would actually go Mason Mount third. I know it's a bit putting Maddison last.
Wow.
I know that's unfair, but I really
Are
rate
you
Maddison.
Southgate in disguise?
Thing is, I do rate Maddison highly, but I do think he came back from injury, started the season. He was doing all right. It's only been the past couple of weeks that he's been sick, and everyone has like a purple patch. If he continues that for the rest of the season, I'd probably change my mind. But it's only been the past couple of weeks or a few weeks that he's been doing that. And I do really like Mason Mount. I know he gets a lot of stick because everyone thinks he's like Lampard's son, Southgate's nephew, and all that. But he does a lot. He does a lot for the team. He works hard, and he to be honest, like the past couple of weeks for Chelsea, they've been absolutely awful. But he's the one bright spark that Chelsea have had. I think he's been trying hard. So yeah, that would be my order at the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was going to say I agree with you, but I don't, to be fair. I think what you said about Maddison, how he kind of gone through a purple patch, that's kind of changed my opinion. Because I was going to put Maddison first. Maddison first, Grealish behind him. I think, to be fair, that purple patch thing's a good point.
Yeah.
He has playing well for, this season he's been class, but yeah, I get what you mean with the purple patch thing. I think I might have to swap him and Grealish around. I'd maybe put Grealish at the top because last season he's been brilliant. He tore us apart when they beat us 7-2. So, but yeah, I think what with Maddison and what Leicester are doing at the moment is brilliant. I think they'll definitely. I reckon the whole Big Six thing's kind of changed now. Man City, the original top six, Man City kind of weren't in there. 10 years ago, whatever, they weren't really in the top four kind of talk, and it changes all the time. Tottenham are in there now. Debates whether Arsenal should be in it or not. What do you think, Kieran? Ask you, do you think Leicester do deserve to be in this kind of new kind of top six?
I think, to be fair, if they're going to push into the top four and solidify themselves as a top four team, now's the time to do it. I mean, you've got Chelsea, Arsenal, maybe United, so to speak, and I'd even say City with some of the players they've lost in a sort of rebuild stage. Leicester have got some really talented players, and I think under a good manager, which they do have, is Rodgers. I think they can more than push for a top four spot every year. I would like to see them in Europe a bit. I would like to see how they compete against the likes of the big European sides and stuff like that. But I think they're a great club, really well run, and I think they can really push the top four.
Yeah, I think seeing them in Europe, I reckon if you stuck them in the Europa League, I reckon they'd get at least semi-final, final. I reckon if you just drop them in there right now. But moving on from a good manager to people kind of saying he's bad, people saying he's good and needing more time. Going on to Frank Lampard. Albert, you might have a lot to say about this. Obviously got sacked the other day. Thomas Tuchel looking like he's coming in. Are you happy with it?
Not at all. No,
I'm not surprised.
I mean, obviously football is a results-based game, and Chelsea in ninth, that should not be happening, especially after the amount that we spent, the players we brought in. Not beating a team in the top half of the table apart from West Ham, obviously that's not good. That's not what you want. But Lampard came in with a plan, and he's not been allowed to do that as long as he should have been. I personally think he should have got to at least the end of the season, seen what happened then. I think it's really harsh on him. Just again, like Purple Patch, Chelsea went 17 games unbeaten. That was only a couple of months ago. We beat the likes of Sevilla 4-0. We played well we should have beat Tottenham. We played well against Man United. It was just clear that heads had dropped. I don't think it was Lampard's fault at all.
No.
I think he should have been given time to see if we could have turned it around. I think we should have got to the end of the season. It's not the worst thing in the world if we don't get top four. Obviously, that's what we want. We wanted more than that. The expectations we went in, I think, were too high. We all thought, we're going to challenge for the league. We're not ready for that yet. So I do think it's a really hard decision sacking Lampard. I don't agree with that because he brought the youth in as well. How many managers have done that at Chelsea in the past 10, 15 years? That no one has. And everyone's saying Tuchel coming in, he'll get the best out of Havertz and Werner. Yeah, he might do. But what's going to happen to Mason Mount, Reece James, Hudson-Odoi, Tammy Abraham? Lampard got the best out of them. What's going to happen to them now? So
Well,
I just
Lampard
think
worked with a transfer ban, didn't he? He had that to work with at the start of his time at Chelsea.
Exactly,
He couldn't sign anyone. So for him to bring them academy players up and do this well with them, we were talking about Mason Mount before and how good of a player he is. Lampard arguably made him into the player he is. So same with, like you said, Tammy Abraham, Reece James, Callum Hudson-Odoi, all those players.
Well, exactly, yeah. Like before that season, Reece James was at Wigan, Mason Mount was at Derby, both in the Championship. No one was going to expect them to become what they have done, and I think that is all credit to Lampard and his staff, Jody Morris as well. But another thing is, like, the signings that we brought in, Havertz, Werner, Ziyech, Thiago Silva. If we'd have still had like Sarri as manager or Conte, we wouldn't have got those players. They came because Lampard went for them. Lampard worked hard for them. Yeah, they wanted to play under Lampard, and I think we lose that a little bit with Tuchel because I think he's all right. Like, there's worse managers out there, but like we were linked with Haaland for the summer, and I know like chances are we might not have signed Haaland, but we're definitely not going to now. If we were going to sign Haaland, it was going to be with Lampard as manager. Yeah. So I think like for recruitment wise, I don't know. I don't like that because Lampard was going for the right kind of players. He was going for the big names and he was getting them. I can't see us doing that now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
well, if I can interject, I think it's ridiculous personally. Yeah. I think it's absolutely a disgrace that he's been sacked so early. I think if you're going to back a manager in the summer to spend nearly 200 million and not let at least let him see it out to the end of the season. Never mind that, actually, a club legend, the top goal scorer, right? I find it absolutely ludicrous the way he's been treated. The other thing is at Chelsea, I think as a club, they've been like that for years. I hope you don't mind me saying, Albert, but they demand success. They demand immediate success. And Lampard was brought in on the basis that he had a plan. And he's been allowed to put this plan in motion, but the plan had been derailed already.
Yeah.
He's been sacked and you're back to square one. Say, you bring in Tuchel, whatever. He does well. Maybe he wins a cup in the first season. No matter what, he then still has to go forward and he would have to plan ahead like Lampard would have. I think he was sat far too early, and I think it was the wrong decision ultimately.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he was sat too early. Like with the signings he brought in as well. If you bring in, 2 defenders, 2 or 3 midfielders, and a striker, that's a whole new team. Basically, it's pretty and a keeper. Well, it's the basis of a squad. Like I said this with Man City for ages. Their kind of central squad was the base. It was like why they were so good for someone. They had Company in the middle, they had David Silva in the middle, and then they had Aguero in the middle. That like middle line was ideal for me and for Chelsea.
No, you're right.
A whole new thing. You need to get it to work together. Havertz and I think Werner got about 25 plus goals in the Bundesliga the season before.
He was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant, and he was the one. He was the one I was most scared of coming to the Premier League.
Yeah,
and he's an absolute shadow of the player he was. Yeah. And I don't know why that is. Maybe he has just started slow, but at the end of the day, you've also got to think, maybe put it on the players. Maybe it's not the manager's fault. Maybe Lampard's doing all he can.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. Well, the quality of the player is still there. Regardless of whether Werner is on bad form or whatever, he still is the same player he was last season. I think quite a lot of the issue was I saw a lot of fans. I don't know if you'll agree with me with this, Albert, but I saw a lot of Chelsea fans on Twitter kind of disagreeing with Lampard playing Werner on the left or on the right, and he was just kind of playing in the weird positions. Yeah,
he's not a winger. Like, let's get that straight. Werner cannot play on the wing, especially not in the Prem. But the thing about the Prem, when Werner played up top, he had like one good game against Southampton where he scored 2 great goals.
Yeah,
but he was getting battered by every centre-back partnership that was out there. Brighton centre-backs, Newcastle centre-backs. He just wasn't in the game as a striker. I think to get the best out of Werner is how Leipzig play. He needs to play off of a hold man up front. He needs to play as like 2 strikers up front. Say like playing with Giroud or playing with Abraham.
That's what I don't understand. that's why I don't understand why didn't he try that at a certain point? You know, when it wasn't working.
Yeah, I do think he should have tried that. But in all honesty, the last game we played in the FA Cup against Luton, he did try that. He played as a front two with Abraham, and it seemed to work. Werner played well. I know he missed a pen. I know he didn't score, but he played well.
Yeah, the amount of runs he made, for like Tammy's first goal, he made the original run from the throw-in. And he made, I think, it was at least 7 or 8 runs in that game that were perfect. He just didn't receive, the layoff or whatever. But what we'll be focused on is the fact that he missed the penalty. Because, especially with strikers, if they've not scored, especially if they miss a penalty, that doesn't help. But if they've not scored, it's a hard game for him anyway. But the amount of runs he made in open space for Chelsea was good, and I think playing with Abraham or even a Giroud would be ideal for him in that situation.
Yeah. The scary thing is, I think if it becomes a real confidence issue for him, because players can get inside their own heads. I think comparable to other Chelsea strikers, Fernando Torres, probably in the same boat,
Morata as well.
Yeah, Morata. So that's the thing. It's a real confidence thing. And once maybe he has a game where, he scores 2 or 3 from open play, maybe something clicks and maybe then he returns to form. But, who knows? This obviously Tuchel, is it Tuchel? Is being brought in. And they're saying that he'll have a big influence with the German players. So I don't know whether it'll be a good move. But the thing that I think about that as well, though, is fair enough, it might have an influence with the German players, Havertz, Werner that have come in. But will players like Tammy, Mount, Reece James, will they regress because Lampard's had such a good impact on the young English players? I think it's a strange appointment. But here's another thing as well, something that I'd like to put is Tomori, the centre back. Was his transfer to AC Milan? Was it even Lampard that dictated that? How long has this managerial swap been in the works? I don't understand.
Well, Tomori, I think it was either last season or the season before. He was kind of your main centre half. It was him and either Christensen, him and Rudiger. He was always the constant, and I thought he was brilliant. He was in contentions for England shouts as well. I thought Tomori was ace, but with I don't think Christensen's the best defender. I don't think Rudiger's the best defender. I think Zuma and Thiago Silva are brilliant.
Yeah.
You kind of need a Tomori to rest Zuma and Thiago Silva. If you've got a Christensen, that's not going to work as well. I think Tomori's mild. Maybe alone will work, but like for him personally, but for Chelsea, will it mess their defensive system?
It's more the fact that Milan have got an option to buy.
That's what I find.
I think they made
quite cheap as well, 20-something million for Tomori. They're getting him so cheap if they decide to do that.
What's to say that they can't just buy him and then sell him on? Have him as that cheap. Like, I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, with how well AC Milan are doing this season as well. But Lampard, I think we can all agree. I don't think he deserved the sack this early. It might work out for Chelsea. You never know. Tuchel might go on to be one of your best managers you've ever had. You never know. But I think for the most part at the moment, I think getting rid of a manager like Lampard, especially a club legend, after such a short time. I personally think it's the wrong decision, but it's kind of why I kind of want to move on to, old ex-players becoming managers of their old club is kind of becoming a big thing now. Lampard was only a manager at Derby for, I think it was about a year or so, 2 years, something like that, and then he went straight to Chelsea. He was just a normal manager who came in from the lower English leagues and had one season at Chelsea. He would not get offered one season at Derby. Sorry, you would not get offered the Chelsea job. And it worries me. That's why, with obviously being a Liverpool fan and with Gerrard being at Rangers now, I'm very happy that he took that job. And I hope he goes somewhere else before he comes to Liverpool. Because if he comes to Liverpool and doesn't have the same effect that Klopp has had, or has a worse effect than you would expect, his legacy that he had as a player is now forgotten. Is not forgotten about. Exactly. It's kind of been tampered with. Younger kids who didn't get to watch as much Frank Lampard play football for Chelsea will know him more so as a manager now. And he didn't have a good career as a manager. And I think bringing maybe Gerrard to Liverpool too early would be an issue. I mean, for United, Ole, for example, has come back to United and he's taking time, but you're top of the Premier League now.
Well, that's it.
Yeah, well, Pirlo's at Juventus. He's just won, I think, the Super Coppa Italia or something like that against Napoli. Gattuso's at Napoli now. David Beckham's at LA Galaxy. Kieran, what do you think about old players becoming managers now?
I think it's slowly becoming the new norm. I'd say it's a strange one because obviously when you have a player that you adore so much as a club, for example, Lampard, Gerrard, even Ollie for United, you obviously have that emotional connection, and it's a lot different to say a foreign manager coming in, that has no connection to the club. I think for that side of it, it's good because they know how the club's run, they know its values, its morals, and they're going to be loved by the fans even before they've made an impression. If you get what I mean.
Yeah.
But the problem I have is, like, there's only so much of that. Like, I'll take Ollie for example. I think Ollie is perfect for United at the moment, right? I'm not going to say he's tactically the best manager in the world. He's not. Realistically, he's not. But his man management is fantastic.
Yeah,
and
I hate to agree with you there, but it is.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I'll agree. I would never ever say that Ollie is tactically astounding. But what I would say is his man management. He's got a love for the club that runs deeper than a lot of other managers. He knows how it's run. He was probably there in the club's most successful period, won it all. And this is the thing of other managers. They're trying to replicate that. For example, Lampard and Chelsea. But is it more of a fairy tale? Do they want this? Do they want this to happen because it would be perfect if they could come and carry on? That's what I mean. How much would you love if Gerrard, in a couple of years after Klopp moves on, Gerrard comes and takes on the team and leads you to Champions League?
I mean, if he takes the job, hits the ground running, and does well, then I'd be over the moon. But it's not guaranteed. Like Zidane, I think is a massive example. He went to Madrid. He's been fantastic. He's won. I think he was the one who won 3 back-to-back Champions Leagues, wasn't he? And he's just been fantastic for Real Madrid. And I think it is a good choice to do that because, like you said, they know the morals and they know the values of the club. Pirlo's obviously doing okay. I mean, he's not doing brilliant in the league, but he's obviously won the Super Coppa. Lampard's obviously not done too well, but Ole's doing really well at the moment. And it just kind of happens with teams. I think it's kind of a progression period. It wasn't so much a thing in the past, but I think, like you said, Kieran, it's becoming the norm now, and I don't mind that. I think getting old players to be managers, being the new norm, I think would be great for football in general. Yeah. It's just a shame if, legacies are ruined. I think clubs, like you said, Kieran, clubs want it to be ideal. They want it to be a fairy tale thing. So I think they jump into it too quickly. Like I said with Lampard, he came in too quick. Like for me personally, I'm happy Gerrard's at Rangers now. I would want him to go, somewhere else before coming to Liverpool.
I completely agree.
It's not the most competitive league in the world. I'd want to see Gerrard at Valencia or Real Sociedad, somewhere foreign like Frankfurt. I don't know, somewhere away from England.
And then I completely agree.
And then come to Liverpool.
I think a prime example is the idea of when Ollie came in. I think in a way Ollie doesn't fit this style. Like he doesn't go along with Lampard's story. Because Ollie had a managerial career at Cardiff before and obviously didn't go so well.
Yeah.
But, however, he was astounding at Mould. He did really well with them. And when he came in, it was obviously his caretaker.
Yeah.
And people forget that, I think. I think people forget that he was only there because he was caretaker. We were actually looking for a manager.
Yeah.
And obviously he was hired on the fact that he had that fantastic run. He gave us that great night in Paris.
Yeah.
And we looked like a proper United team again. And then when it started to go wrong, people jumped on that very quickly, saying, the appointment, is too quick. You don't have enough experience. So this is what I fear for football with managers coming in straight from playing. I think Rooney could be another example. I think Wayne Rooney may manage Manchester United one day. It's
a strange thing.
Yeah,
one legend to another. So
Yeah, it's a strange thing to say, but he might come to United one day. But I'd hate to see. Yeah, I'd hate to see Rooney take on the role at Derby, do quite well. You know, give it a couple of years, come to United and have an absolute shocker, and then tarnish his reputation. You know, it'd be awful. So I don't know if I'm all for it. I think there's some positives, some negatives.
Yeah. Well, you know, obviously, Solskjaer, like you said, being caretaker coming in now, United are doing well at the moment. As much as I don't want to say it, I'm sure as much as Albert don't want to hear it as well. You are. I mean, you're 6 points ahead of us. You're ahead of City. To be fair, if they win the game in hand, do go top. But at the moment, you're top of the league. You know, no one else in the league can say that. Are you happy with the season so far?
Oh, absolutely. I never thought that it would be like this. I thought we recruited well in the summer. But I thought that we didn't recruit well enough, like compared to, and this is going to sound funny now, but like Chelsea. Yeah. I thought at the start of the season, I thought, bloody hell, Chelsea, I tell you what, there'll be some side this year. And it just shows that, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean having a good transfer window means you'll be successful. Yeah. I think United, the players that they've brought in were the right players to bring in. I think Cavani was an inspired signing. Looking back on it now, it seemed like a bit of a panic buy at the time. Well, obviously not a panic buy; he was free, but it was pretty much deadline day. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And it looked like we'd exhausted all our options and gone for the free agent. You know. Yeah. But turns out now he's still fit as anything. He is such a hard worker, and he turns up in big games. And I think that's something we've been missing with Martial and, you know, playing, you know, Rashford and integrating them in striking positions. I think we finally got I'd probably say the first forward since Ibrahimovic that actually looks like a really well-established goal scorer.
Well, he's one of them players, like, even if he doesn't start, you know, if I see him coming on, I think, oh, for God's sake, you know, when he came on against Liverpool, I thought, I just know he's going to score. Yeah, you know, I don't know if you feel the same, Albert, but I think when I see him come on, I just think, oh no, you know he can score goals, and that's what I think that signing was. But Albert, how do you feel about Chelsea season? Obviously, with Lampard going, you know, we've spoken about that already. But what's your early? You know, it's only halfway through the season. What's kind of your prediction now for Chelsea at the end of the season?
To be honest, I don't think we're going to get top four now. I think the top four have got to be United, City, Liverpool, and probably Leicester. I think Leicester will get that last spot in the top four. Yeah. For Chelsea, I kind of want us to get into the top six. If we drop outside the top six, that's awful. Like it's not where we should be. I'd like us to go on a run in the FA Cup and just see how far we can get in the Champions League as well. You never know what Tuchel's going to do when he comes in. He might sort us out straight away. We might start playing really well. He might bring the team back together. So if we get on a nice run in the FA Cup, the Champions League, and we just climb the table, I'll be from where we are right now. I'd be happy with that. Obviously, top four is where we wanted to be, but I don't know. I can't see that happening. Just how good United, City, and Leicester are playing. I think that we won't be able to catch them, and I'm sure Liverpool will start to turn it around soon as well.
Fingers crossed, mate. Fingers crossed.
No, not fingers crossed. I hope they keep losing.
You never know. You never know with Tuchel and stuff. You know, he took PSG to their first Champions League final. You know, he did really well with them. Obviously, winning the league, but I think that's kind of a given for PSG at the moment. But Matt, top four and everything. You know, I'm quite concerned. We'll move on to Liverpool's current form. I think I'm hoping now. You know, the game against United the other night in the FA Cup. Fair enough, we did lose. I don't think we deserved to lose. But it was, it was progression. From the games we've had, you know, it was nice to actually see a goal after about 5 games where we've not actually scored. And like I said, I don't think we deserve to lose, but that's just how it is. That's finished 3-2, and I think we definitely played better than we have been doing the past five or 6 games or so. But we just have to kind of move on.
I thought you played quite well. I'll be honest. Yeah. I thought the first goal you scored was against a run of play, but it was a wonderful pass and a great finish. And I think one thing about Liverpool that will never change, as long as you've got Salah and Mane, you can score goals.
Yeah.
I think them two are probably the best two wingers in the league by a good stretch, I'd say.
I'll agree with you there.
Yeah. I hate to say that, but I think I personally don't. I'd like to hear your thoughts as a Liverpool fan on Firmino, because personally, whenever I've watched him play, his impact is there, but I can't. He's not a striker for me.
No.
He's good at linking up the play, and he's when Salah and Mane are on it, that's a formidable front three. But what do you think of Firmino? Would you like another striker?
Well, if you were to ask me, what position would you want to strengthen? Who would you sign? I think everyone will kind of say this, but I would say Haaland at the moment.
Yeah.
Imagine when we're at full fitness. Because I think the issue with scoring goals has been. It kind of converts back to not having centre halves. We've not got any senior centre backs, so we've had to put Fabinho there. Obviously, he's been class, but like the tackle he made against Cavani for the free kick that led to the winning goal. If in midfield, if he makes that challenge, it's no skin off his back. It's not he's not used to that, and I think pushing him back into centre back is kind of not confusing because he's done well. He used to play in defence for Monaco, but. It's made us slower. We've made a signing of Thiago who we made to progress play and get the play forward. We've ended up having to play him in the number 6. And, sometimes even playing Hendo at centre back with Fabinho, and then 2 of our centre mids are playing centre half. Fabinho's obviously dropped back, so we've had to drop Thiago back, and we've got no progression going forward. We have to kind of rely on the 2 wingers who are usually so far up the pitch to come back with Firmino, get the ball up the pitch, but then there's no one else there. And I think
Thiago is a strange one, isn't he? Because I think we all can't deny he's world-class player.
Yeah.
Some of his touches on the ball, and you can just see sometimes when a player like Uzi's class, he's just like so technically gifted. And I was saying this when we were watching it the other night. I love watching him play. He's really classy player. Yeah, I think they're 2 very similar players in terms of flair and creativity. But what the weird thing is obviously that's a tremendous asset on its own. But as a team for Liverpool, I think he's reformed you, and I don't think not in a good way.
Really,
I think
I think I agree. I think he kind of. He's unreal, but I do feel like he slows down play a little bit for Liverpool compared to I do a little bit because from when I've watched Liverpool, when you've had a midfield of Henderson and Fabinho in there, Thiago's so good at getting the ball, controlling it and having a look, and he's so good at finding that pass. But I think Henderson and Fabinho would run with move the ball forward a bit more. They'd make more runs. They're not as good as what Thiago is good at, so they don't try doing that. I think they're better in midfield at pushing the ball forward.
Right. Yeah.
So I think he's unreal. He's so good at he's one of the best midfielders in the world. But I do think he sort of slows down Liverpool's counter attacks as well. I think he slows it down a little bit. So I think that might be where the problem with goals is coming from potentially.
Oh. Fingers crossed we kind of get back onto a decent form and, players come back from injury. Hopefully we sign a centre-back and then we can move him further up and kind of get that progression going a bit better and then hopefully climb the table. Because at the end of the day, we're only 6 points behind. It's only 2 games. It only takes 2 slip-ups from United, 2 slip-ups from City, which, City had last season. For the last few seasons they've lost to a couple teams like that. They lost to Crystal Palace, Wolves, teams like that. And it can change, I think at one point Liverpool were about 3-4 points clear, and then by the end of the next weekend we were third or fourth, and that can happen any time. Depending.
The Premier League is so unpredictable now.
Yeah, it is.
It's so unpredictable.
Yeah,
one minute you can be on top of the world, and the next you can be getting smacked up by Sheffield United.
I think this season definitely over. The top 4 is going to be difficult to predict, but I think that's kind of our last point for today. So I appreciate you two coming to join with me today. Thank you very much.
All right.
It's been a pleasure, Jack.
It has.
No worries. If you enjoyed the podcast today, please do subscribe to the channel, like the video, and we have got our website in the description below with all our socials as well. Click those links, follow us on there, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers.
This is Students on Sport.